On January 13, 2008, St. Anthony Park United Church of Christ voted to enter into covenant with Victoria L. Wilgocki, a servant of God, to become a minister, pastor, and teacher of this church. The pastor hereby accepts the church's call to serve as its pastor and teacher, as described herein. Those are the opening sentences to my call agreement with this congregation. Call agreement is the language that the UCC uses for employment contract. 16 years ago and counting, this church called me, and I accepted the call. Every so often, I reread the opening paragraph of my call agreement. I can get so focused on the work right in front of me, the day-to-day tasks, that it is helpful to step back and appreciate the totality of my call. The opening paragraph functions as a reset. It is foundational. Oh yeah, that's what I'm called to do. Oh yeah, that's what I'm called to be. Pastor and teacher. Pastor and teacher. I love the teacherly aspects of my pastorate. In fact, when I went to college, I thought I was going to get a music education degree and become a music teacher in a public school. But things changed. But teaching, education, learning, they are essential to me. Teaching, education, and learning are essential to this faith community. Teaching, education, and learning are essential to the Christian tradition and to the journey of faith. Therefore, instead of preaching from any of the assigned lectionary texts this morning, I took another tack. I chose the 6 verses that Mike read from a smattering of books of the Bible. Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon me and learn from me." The psalmist writes, "I will instruct you and teach you the way you should go." Paul says, "Keep on doing the things that you have learned, and God, the God of peace, will be with you." The book of Acts tells us about our religious forebears. Every day in the temple and at home, they did not cease to teach and proclaim Jesus as the Messiah. And the psalmist prays, "Make me to know your ways, O God. Teach me your paths." And my personal favorite, Proverbs 19:8. To get wisdom is to love oneself. To keep understanding is to prosper. To keep understanding, to be curious, to seek out that which is unknown, to yearn for wisdom, to learn from others, to take risks and try new things, to engage in lifelong learning. That is the stuff of life. That is also the stuff of our lives together as Christians. When we learn, when we keep understanding, we prosper. I now turn to the teaching of Abraham Heschel. He was a 20th century Jewish rabbi and professor and philosopher. He posited that human beings have 3 motives for learning. This is what he wrote back in 1955, and I quote, "The Greeks learned in order to comprehend. The Hebrews learned in order to revere. And modern man learns in order to use." How about that? The Greeks learned in order to comprehend. The Hebrews learned in order to revere. And modern man, humanity, learns in order to use. As Christians, I think we need all 3 in our life of faith: the ability to comprehend, to revere, and to use what we have learned. Do we understand the basic tenets of Christianity? Do we comprehend the major themes of the Old and New Testaments? Do we revere the rituals and sacraments and the Christian tradition, even with all of its flaws? Do we honor our religious ancestors? Do we use the teachings of the church when we make decisions in our personal lives? And do the values of the progressive Christian church affect our priorities, our words, our actions? the ability to comprehend, to revere, and to use. We need all three in our life of faith. Next, I turn to Sarah Little, who was a professor of education at Union Presbyterian Seminary in Virginia. She wrote a book entitled To Set One's Heart, Belief and Teaching in the Church. In her book, Professor Little explores the theory and the practice of how the church is an educational institution at the same time it is a religious institution. They go together, inextricably connected. Little advocates for the centrality of the ministry of teaching and learning. This is part of what she writes. To be human is to need to perceive meaning in life. Teaching, then, as an intentional activity, may be employed by the church in helping persons find meaning in a chaotic world. She also makes a strong case for learning in community with others, and she writes this: faith is communicated by a community of believers. Meaning is developed by its members, by their interactions with one another, and in relationship to the events that take place in their lives. And in chapter 4, Professor Little writes this: when Christian education is characterized by curiosity, when it is rooted in wonder, then reflection and study become not tasks, but necessities. Isn't that lovely? When our Christian education is characterized by curiosity, when it is rooted in wonder, it's not a task, but it's a necessity. And so, with Abraham Heschel's trio of comprehending, revering, and using, and with Sarah Little's thesis that finding meaning with others in a faith community is a necessity, I proclaim it's back to school day here at SAP-UCC. Indeed, our fall semester has begun. So I ask you, what kind of continuing Christian education are you going to engage in this fall and into the winter? What do you want to find out about more or learn for the very first time? With whom are you going to engage in your learning? What makes you curious? What stirs your imagination? What are you yearning to discover? Well, friends, you're in luck. I have some ideas for you. There are 21 ideas, in fact, 21 possibilities to jumpstart your fall semester, options for you to consider and choose from. I actually started with a list of 10, but then I just kept writing, and I wound up with 21, which seemed like a good enough number, divisible by 1, 3, 7, and 21. I don't think that has any religious meaning, but it's a good number. Here we go, 21 things that you can do for your own faith formation and continuing Christian education. 1, read our church's history book. We published a history for the church's 125th anniversary in 2011. It has all kinds of cool stories and old photographs and timelines, and there are plenty of copies available for you. 2, attend the adult forum. Be in community. Dedicate just 1 hour, 60 minutes of your week to this intentional time of learning, starting with next Sunday when Annette and Marilyn lead the session about the Lord's Prayer. 3, there is an outstanding seminary less than 5 minutes from this place. Yes. So seek out United Theological Seminary, their lectures, their events, and other offerings. Maybe even audit a class, right? They can do that, right, Molly? Yes. Audit a class. Yes. 4, if you do not know the name of every child in this congregation, commit to learning their names. All of them. Learn their names. 5, get educated about the church's finances, especially how we use the endowment on our memorial funds. Find out how we save money and spend money, invest money, and give money away, and how all of that is in sync with our values. 6, how about if you have a conversation with a family member about the religious history in your family tree? So go back and look at prior generations. How did the faith get transmitted from one generation to the next? Who eschewed religion altogether? What stories need to be told or retold? 7, read and ponder one psalm per week. There are 150 psalms, so it will take you just shy of 3 years to read the whole Psalter. 8, sing with the sanctuary choir. Learn a bunch of wonderful sacred choral music and be in community together through music making. 9, learn the history of the Black Baptist Church and how it was the driver, the catalyst of the whole civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s. Every Christian should know that history. 10, borrow a book or 2 or 3 from our lending library here at the church. There's a treasure trove of good books for children and adults. 11, choose one social justice topic that is important to you. It could be voting rights, poverty, gun violence, climate justice, reproductive health, housing, addiction, white Christian nationalism, immigration, on and on. Commit to learning about a local business or nonprofit that is working on that issue and how you might support what they are doing. 12, be in conversation with Ken Gowdy and other wonderful SAPUCCers on the first Thursday of the month for Exploring the Bible. They're currently exploring Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, and there's a whole lot of there. 13, learn the spiritual practice of centering prayer. A small group meets every Saturday morning for just 45 minutes of prayer at St. Matthew's Church, our neighbor across the alley. 14, take home a New Century hymnal. Find your favorite hymns and read the paragraph at the bottom of the page to learn about the hymn's composition, its origin, its history, and purpose. Our hymnody matters. Get educated about it. 15, seek and find 3 new prayers, just 3 new prayers, 1 for the morning, 1 for mealtime, 1 for bedtime. Or better yet, write your own. 16, maybe you're a doer and you learn by doing, by cooking and serving at Loaves and Fishes in October, or by packing food for international hunger relief at Feed My Starving Children in November, or by showing up for the Sanctuary Coalition potluck later this month to meet immigrants and refugees here in the Twin Cities. Learn by doing. 17, dive into the 3 great Abrahamic traditions, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, and learn how each tradition claims Abraham as a father and forebear of the faith. 18, participate in a Zoom Bible study about the book of Philemon. Ever heard of Philemon? It's one of the most obscure, and so I am going to offer a Zoom Bible conversation on Monday, October 7th. There will be a morning session and an evening session. Zoom in, so people on Zoom, yoo-hoo! Yes, you. This is especially for you, those who are out of state. I'd love to be in conversation with you about this book of the New Testament. Much to learn. 19, choose one famous Christian who intrigues you, like Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Mother Teresa, Thomas Merton, Howard Thurman, Parker Palmer, Julian of Norwich, St. Francis of Assisi, Desmond Tutu, Pope Francis. Pick one famous Christian and learn how their faith has informed their life. 20, have a substantial conversation with a trusted person or group of people about a significant theological topic that you want to explore, like forgiveness, or hope, or sin, baptism, lament, discipleship, heaven, the reign of God, doubt, eternity. Pick your topic, have a conversation. And number 21. Listen to someone who needs to be listened to, someone who needs to be heard. In the listening, you will learn. In the listening, you will learn. I hope something in that list of 21 sparked interest for you, but if not, there are a zillion other possibilities. Friends, what I'm saying is this: dare to stretch yourself this year. Try something new, explore, ponder, question, seek, find, grow, all in service to a living faith that is deep and vital and strong, all in service to Rabbi Heschel's trio of greater knowledge, reverence, and usefulness, all in service to Professor Little's aim for Christian education to be infused with curiosity and wonder, so that the learning is not a task, but a necessity. The psalmist prays, "Make me to know your ways, O God. Teach me your paths." And the writer of Proverbs 19:8 tells us, to get wisdom is to love oneself. To keep understanding is to prosper. And so, as your pastor and teacher, I say, may it be so. Amen.